Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. More than 1,000 people have been displaced by floods and slips in Nelson.
The region has been lashed by days of relentless rain, the damage bringing one official to tears. And as Hori-Hoult reports, it will take years to recover.
It may be hidden by thick fog, but much of Nelson is simply crumbling away, like here on Cleveland Terrace.
3 of these big pines all just went all at once, straight on top of the street light, straight on top of the car, lots of loud noises, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
Josh Kemp was surveying the area right where it fell, moments before it happened.
A little bit scary, yeah, there's been a fair bit of adrenaline running.
He and his family were evacuated at 4 in the morning. One neighbour was hoisted out by a fire truck's ladder, and this is just one slip. Civil Defence says there are too many to count.
The damage that I saw in Nelson was heartbreaking. I think that we're years away from a recovery.
At least 411 homes have been evacuated. That's more than 1,000 people displaced. Police and Defence Force personnel are patrolling the most affected areas, and while emotional residents want to get back, that won't be happening for a while yet.
It won't be done today, not with the additional numbers that we have.
Bill and Sue Dalberg live on the hill overlooking the area around the Mai Tai River.
Within an hour, we could witness the river rising and going into people's backyards, and it was just so sad to watch.
Further north of the Mai Tai, the extent of the damage is still unclear, but images from the air provide a glimpse. This was the Cawthron Aquaculture Park before the rain, now surrounded by floodwater. The whole area, once green fields, underwater.
It's dramatic. For Alec and myself, we've spent the last 15 years working together to build the city and to do some fantastic things in it. And you look at some of the projects that you've worked on and you pass them and they've just been destroyed.
With so many roads closed, authorities are urging people to stay home because Nelson is essentially gridlocked. The main road is closed for the foreseeable future. That damage being felt right across the region.
Years of recovery for individuals, for families as they work through repairing damage on their property. And as we said, for some, they're not going to be able to go back to their homes. Homes
which are now back in the firing line, with Nelson under another red rain warning until tomorrow. Hori-Hoult, Newshub.
Well, our reporter Alexa Cook joins us now live from the Mai Tai River. Alexa, very wet where you are there, but there's also another region that's just declared a state of emergency.
That's right, Sam. The Marlborough region has just announced a state of local emergency. And that's because in some places in that region, nearly 800 millimetres of rain has fallen. And that's meant that the communities of Canvastown and the Rye Valley have been completely cut off. That's because of slips and flooding. And this weather, as you can see, it's just not letting up. Here in Nelson, another red warning has been issued, and that's a heavy rain warning for overnight, with another 200 millimetres of rain forecast in some parts of the city, which for an already saturated city poses a huge risk. And the council is particularly worried about this river, the Mai Tai River, bursting its banks yet again. It's also really concerned about the sodden hillside slipping even further, which is why it's warning residents here to expect further evacuations and to comply when they're told to get out.
Alexa, thanks so much for that update. You go and get dry.
The Far North District Mayor says it's time to consider an entirely new state highway. With both State Highways 1 and 10 closed, everywhere north of Kirikiri is essentially cut off from the rest of the country. And it's far from the first time. Ashley Yates filed this report.
A region underwater, a muddy mess as far as the eye can see.
About 12 inches deep this end and other ends 6 inches.
More than a month and a half worth of rain has fallen since Tuesday in Kirikiri. It's also been pouring in Kaio, Kaitaia and Kawakawa.
Last night there were reports of surface flooding lapping up around a number of houses in Kaitaia. Some of those residents made the decision to self-evacuate.
It's Northland's roads that are causing officials the biggest concern. State Highway 10 and 1 remain closed tonight, with dozens of other roads affected. Mike Thorne's been trying to get home to South Kaitaia since yesterday.
What have you been waiting here for?
Oh, a bit over 3 hours.
and just I've got a low ground clearance car, so a bit worried about sort of stopping halfway across.
But not everyone is as smart as Mike. These people had to be rescued from their cars near Kaio. And Waka Kotahi says it wasn't an isolated incident.
We don't want them getting stuck and then our team having to go in and save them. So, it's just, if you don't need to travel, don't travel.
This is as far north as we can get travelling on State Highway 1. A road closure has been set up near Mangamuka where officials say they've had to turn around at least 50 cars today.
It's likely that with the slips that have occurred that it may be some time before the road is reopened.
In July 2020, huge slips closed the road for almost 12 months. Mayor John Carter says this has had a huge impact on Kaitaia and beyond and thinks it's time for an alternative.
It's a major, major worry, and we do hope, I will be talking with various ministers over the next few days about how we can rapidly address the issue so that we don't have a shutdown like we experienced last time.
For now, the message is to stay home and stay safe, although an exception can probably be granted for some foamy fun.
Well, Ashley joins us now. Kia ora, Ashley, and is there still more rain to come?
Yes, that's right, Mike. An orange heavy rain warning remains in place in Northland until midnight. A further 40 to 80 millimetres of rain is expected to accumulate on top of what's already fallen north of Hikurangi and lesser amounts in the south. That's according to Met Service, while Waka Kotahi, they're urging motorists to drive with extreme caution over Northland due to the flooding, and they've labelled the damage that they've seen as significant.
Ashley Yates, live from Kyle. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Bulla and the West Coast have emerged from the storm largely unscathed. The Emergency Operations Centre has been scaled back and the most severe red weather warning shifted to orange. Bulla Mayor Jamie Klein says the community is breathing a sigh of relief.
Community preparedness seemed to be a lot more on point this time as well. So, we're kind of, it's probably a weird thing to say, but we are getting better at this as we enable our community to become more resilient in light of red warnings.
However, a state of emergency will remain in place throughout Bulla and the West Coast until Monday.
And Taranaki has also been drenched with more than 1 metre of rain falling on the mountain. The Civil Defence Controller says there have been floods, landslips and road closures as the rain swept down rivers towards the coast. Cars had to drive off the road to get around landslips. In Waitara, the river was lapping at the bridge on State Highway 3, astonishing bystanders. The next high tide is due in about 3 hours, but officials are hoping the worst is over. At this stage, there are no plans to close bridges, but Civil Defence is still on alert. More heavy rain forecast tonight.
Well, Heather is here now with more on this extreme weather and just how much rain has fallen in Taranaki.
It's a record-breaking amount. New Plymouth this morning broke their wettest August day ever, over 100 millimetres in 24 hours. But like we just heard, over 1 metre of rain has fallen on Mount Taranaki in the past 3 days. And it's not just the rain, it's very warm too. Wanganui broke their warmest August day record, 20.8 degrees. There's been no need for winter duvets in Auckland. Overnight lows have been warmer than those expected in December. And it's not over yet. I'll have the updated warnings after sport.
Thanks so much, Heather.